Do you want to go ahead and get started?
Sure. I was just going to wait another minute to see if the participants go up because it's sometimes takes a minute once we start it.
Yeah.
So maybe we'll just give it 1 minute.
All right.
Sounds good.
Realized I didn't confirm that with you before. Okay. All right. I think we're going to go ahead and get started. My name is Katie Voles, and I'm joined by Robin Oncampora. Hello. Robin and I will be delivering the content for today's workshop, which is your internship and job search. One thing that we wanted to mention is that we're going to record this, as you'll notice. We will also leave, hopefully, some time at the end for questions, which will not be recorded. Robin and I will also not be on camera the whole time, just so you can focus on the content of the slides. But again, we are available for questions if you have them. Okay, so you're going to go ahead and get started, Robin?
Great. Thank you.
Okay. All right. I think when it comes to the internship and job search, any one of these could actually be a workshop in and of themselves. And so what we've done is put as much information as we can into this hour-long workshop with the understanding that we will likely skim over some of it and spend a little bit more time taking a bit of a deeper dive into some of the content. So just to go over what we're going to be discussing today, and let me go ahead and hide my screen here. I don't know if you can see that too. Okay. This is what we'll be discussing. Again, it's a lot of content, but our office, the Office of Career Strategy, and how we support you, as well as the components of the job and internship search for yourself. We recognize that some of you may be looking for full-time opportunities, some for summer internships, and some trying to figure out what it is that they need and want for the summer. So hopefully we will address as many of your interests and concerns as we can. We'll spend a great deal of time delving through the resources to assist with your job search and funding options as well. I think those are two areas that we have a plethora of resources, but oftentimes students are just not aware. So we want to spend some time on that and finish up with some goal setting and some action plans. Okay, so quick overview of our office, who we are and what we offer. We are available for many things, advising one-on-one appointments, as well as looking through your cover letters and resumes. We have workshops like this. We have alumni and employer events, as well as networking and opportunities to connect with individuals, learn about what it is that might be out there for you to do. And finally, our website, which is likely how you found this workshop. We will spend a lot of time going through the resources available on that, as I mentioned. Okay, so the biggest question I think we get from students is they are aware that they have to do something, but they don't know where to begin. And they may not even be sure what questions to ask to help them. There is a general job search strategy, which we'll just briefly touch upon. It begins with identifying your interests, your needs for the summer, what you're looking to get. Oftentimes, those needs are born of the questions that you have about what it is you want to do, what you want to get experience in. And ultimately, it lands with goals. Once you've identified what those needs are and what your questions are, the next step is to take some time to research who it is that possibly does what you want to do, both from a company or organizational standpoint, as well as an individual context. Where geographically you may look to spend some time and get experiences over the summer and beyond. What roles or titles you may be looking to apply to and fill. And those will help to inform what types of skills are necessary. Once you know what type of experiences or skills are needed for the experiences you're looking to get or be a candidate for, that may also help to identify for you some additional stepping stones. If what you're looking to do in the near term is not yet attainable because you haven't had the experiences yet, what are stepping stones to get that? And then connecting. Once you have a sense for who or what it is you might want to explore, there are individuals and organizations operating in that capacity. There are people looking to do exactly what it is that you're doing and doing the tasks and the jobs that you want to do. So we do want to touch upon how to connect with those individuals, how to both identify and establish a connection with them, and then how to reach out and what to say. We'll get a little bit more deep into that. And then finally apply. At some point, you will be applying to opportunities. And so we'll take just a brief minute and talk about resources and ways to do that. I mentioned that oftentimes the hardest part is figuring out where to start. And I think if you can take some time to set goals, that will be your North Star. Once you identify again, are you looking to get experience? Are you looking to gain exposure in a particular field? That then drives the steps to get there. Without those goals, it is very difficult to take action. So if your goals are to gain experience in an industry or a field, or as I mentioned, develop specific skills that you don't yet have to be a candidate, perhaps your goals are to learn a language or practice your foreign language skills, be in a different region, or be closer to home. So maybe what it is that you need to be near family members or in a specific region because of a particular life circumstance. That might be a goal that you have as well. Also, earning credit is an awesome way to gain experience as well as get credit over the summer. And then finally, last but not least, to make money. These are goals. So again, these may help to drive the decisions about what it is you need to pursue or steps you need to take to get there. I would be remiss if I didn't spend at least a couple of minutes discussing the pillars of the job search. I think oftentimes students and we in general tend to go right to the end, which is just to apply to a job without really taking time to assess the three aspects of a job search: skills, values, and interest. I'm going to spend just a minute on these because I think they're really important as you carry out your day-to-day activities to begin to tune into a little bit more what it is that's important to you, the things that you do well and just naturally are interested in. So when I speak to skills, I'm talking about your innate, natural, God-given skills that you tend to use really without even thinking. I like this graphic because it's a right hand. And I think you look at something, what's just your dominant hand? You don't think about it, you just do it naturally. So it might be that you're very good at connecting with people, or you're really good at building things. You love to organize, or again, be creative. These are your skills. Just because they're your skills, however, doesn't necessarily mean you need to use them in the job search. It just means you need to be aware of what it is that you can do well. Start to take a look at areas that people come to you naturally for, that they may not go to other people for. And those may be your natural skills. Values. I like to look at values as the aspects of our lives that we need in order to feel truly fulfilled. They tend to be, if this is one way to differentiate between skills, values, and interests, values tend to end in ing. So if helping others is important to you, or developing, collaborating with others, you see some of the images here are meant to evoke just types of values that you have. Your value may be balance and stability. And those are things that as you start to explore, continue to explore internship and job opportunities, you want to pay attention to how closely aligned they are with your values. In the short term, you may feel that you can put your values aside. If family time is a value to you, but you're looking at an industry or an opportunity that doesn't provide a lot of balance, it may be okay in the short term, but in the long term, that may be something that ultimately leads to job dissatisfaction and then not career success. And then finally, interest. I like to look at these as the things that you find yourself getting lost doing. You could spend an hour doing it without even really thinking about it. So reading, being outdoors, creative things like jewelry design, solving problems, those are things that you're naturally good at. Does it mean that you need or can create a career in it? Possibly. Someone who's interested in interior design, does it necessarily mean that they should be an interior designer? Well, possibly the skills and the values are not in alignment, but maybe it means that the environment or the aesthetic that they work in has to be very appealing to them or pleasing to them. So thinking about these things together, they merge into what ultimately amounts to career satisfaction. The more closely aligned the experiences and opportunities are that you take to these three aspects of the job search, the more fulfillment you'll find, and ultimately, again, greater career success. When students are struggling with where to begin, we often tell them to think about the three criteria in a job search: function, industry, and geography. So job function, that is possibly look at that as like the job title or the tasks that you'd be carrying out. So software development, engineer, performer, those are or project manager, that's the actual function. In some cases, a student is most interested in learning a particular function. They want to work in finance. They want to work as in marketing. The industry may not be as important. On the other hand, industry might be the thing that you want to get experience in. So you want to work in the fashion industry. You don't necessarily care if it's in merchandising or marketing or finance or operations. You just want industry experience. So that might drive your search and allow you to hone in a little bit more on the types of organizations and opportunities that might be a fit for you. And then finally, geography. We mentioned earlier that might be a goal for you. So while the actual role itself or the industry that you're working in isn't as important as the location that you're in, you want to get experience working abroad. And that is something that if I don't mention it later, I want to be sure to mention that it is working abroad, studying abroad, living abroad for the summer and beyond. It takes time and planning, so you do need to plan ahead. That is, I would suggest that for any function or industry, but particularly when it's a geographic relocation, you do need to plan ahead. So those are the three criteria. All right, great. I know that's something that I need to do, Katie, but how do I go about it? And what resources does OCS provide? There are many. So we're just going to spend a little bit of time sharing those. We want to be sure with the multitude of resources that we have that you're aware that they're there. We've provided screenshots on here, but we will we'll ask you really to take the time after this workshop to explore those on your own. So just some resources. Industry and career guides, getting a sense for the lay of the land of the industry. There's organizational guides. Firsthand produces guides called the Vault Guides. They're career guides. They've been around forever, but they're continuously updated. It's something that you should absolutely check out. Company websites provide a lot of information about specific cultures and opportunities in projects and missions of organizations. Assessments are something that, while they're not a magic bullet, I do think that they provide context and understanding for you. Things like MBTI, the Strengths Finder, Clifton Strengths are, and what color is your parachute? There's some very tried and true assessments that I hope that students take advantage of. There's also assessments just about skills, values, and interests right on our website, which I'll point to too. The student clubs, as well as professional organizations that you join, often can provide a really, not just conduits to contacts and maybe even jobs, but events and resources that allow you to fill out your understanding of that particular industry. There's obviously webinars and in-person networking events. They're coming back, in-person events. But I think just access to resources and information are a really good aspect of the professional associations and student clubs that might be even here on campus. And then job postings and OCS, they kind of go hand in hand. OCS has a ton of resources, including job postings. There are job boards. I mentioned this and as part of your research, because while job postings, yes, they can ultimately lead to internship and full-time job opportunities. They also provide a lot of information about the type of skills that are needed to carry out certain jobs, and the types of organizations that might offer those jobs. So job postings, while yes, they may be a means to getting a job, they're also a great source of research for you. I mentioned OCS. I wanted to take some time to go through the resources on our website. Again, there are many. So you obviously have found it in some capacity because you found this workshop, but I want to be sure some of the nuances that might be not as evident initially for you are pointed out. So the first thing to do, if you haven't done so already, is to explore through the OCS communities. These are community groups, affinity groups that will segment the types of resources that might be of interest to you, and also just make the information a little bit more tailored to you. Also within communities, as well as in jobs and internships, is exploring careers by industry. There are certain industry guides that are available on OCS's website. It's in multiple places, but one of the places is here through communities. In that communities page, if you search as an undergrad, and we're assuming that the majority of you who are undergrads, there are a lot of things, but I wanted to point out just a couple. This values, interests, and skills inventory. It's a pen and paper type test, but it's right there on the website, and target list of employers. So we mentioned finding out who does what right through OCS. You were able to identify some contacts there. Just wanted to go further along that. Here's create a target employer list through the OCS website. Use multiple resources, this is just one of them, but we identify some resources to assist with this. The employer directory, peer networking list, we're going to go further into those later on in the workshop. But also notice that in addition to finding companies of interest, those same resources also provide contacts. So they have a dual purpose. That's a good thing. It allows you to feel as though you're getting a little bit of a better handle on the resources that are out there and the many things that they can assist with in your job search. Some resources are simply one-dimensional, but most of the resources, if not all the resources that we list on our website, are a little more multifaceted. Going further in our OCS website, it does have a link to the Yale Careerlink, which I'm going to show you in just a moment, that has the job postings. But there are just a number of things here along the lines of job postings. Right on the homepage of OCS's website, we ask you to customize the OCS weekly newsletter. We recognize as Yale students, you get a ton of information sent to you every day. And we are just one piece of data that gets sent to you. By customizing the OCS newsletter, that allows you to tailor the types of information that we are sending to you each week. It takes 2 minutes and it'll make that resource for you much more valuable. So I did want to be sure to point out that customizing the newsletter. Again, if you haven't done so already, it'll just make it a much more valuable and relevant resource for you. And I want to point out Careerlink. Many of the resources, job postings, newsletter, networking lists that we mentioned today come through Careerlink. So it's the portal through which you'll get a lot of this. I am going to go a little bit deeper into the Careerlink website in a bit, but I want to just point out what it is. So we have, if you haven't been on it already, it's where you can make advising appointments. There are job and internship postings, employer profiles, but particularly for your job search, this is what's available to you. And taking that in mind, I'm actually going to just take a pause a minute on the OCS website. In career exploration and career advising, we often talk about two types of job searches, the passive versus the active job search. It's fairly self-explanatory, but I want to talk about what that looks like for you, and what passive might provide for you, as well as you can probably guess why we might recommend a more active job search. To do that, I think it's helpful to get in the mindset of an employer. All of you eventually, if not for the summer or in the near term, ultimately will be looking to get a job with some type of organization or employer. In order to consider how you might be best attractive to them or the best candidate for them, put yourself in their mindset of the employer. So let's think about the various streams or pipelines that provide candidates to employers. There is the obvious one, job boards. And job boards account for about 80 to 90% of applications to an organization. It will obviously vary by organization and industry, but that's the most obvious one, along with company websites. Again, another major form of applicants for organizations. I would say these tend to be the more passive ways to apply to an organization, as well as to learn about what types of opportunities are out there. Along the more active route is social media, and I don't necessarily mean Snapchat or Instagram, although Instagram does provide connections to job searches. I'm talking more about the ones that were designed to connect individuals to contacts and information, but also expand and possibly even connect you to jobs. So LinkedIn will be my favorite. We're going to spend a little bit of time on that. Facebook, Twitter. Again, all of these, particularly through the Facebook jobs, Twitter feeds, it's a great way to augment your job search, to not only learn about what types of things are going on in the industry and with particular organizations, but also connect you to individuals and possibly even experiential opportunities. Finally, the most active way to learn about an organization, understand a career, is going to be through personal referrals, through connections. This is something I think that provides a little bit of trepidation as I even begin to mention this with students and individuals, but we're going to break it down a little bit and demystify what we mean by that. Just to give you a little bit of compelling data though, employee referrals are 4 times more likely to be hired. This is a statistic from LinkedIn that I actually have seen this go as high as 14 times more likely to be hired. 70% of all jobs are not posted. That goes up to 80 to 90%, again, depending on the industry. I took a very conservative approach when putting these stats out there. That's from Business Insider. And then finally, 85% of jobs are found through networking. So an interesting thing to think about, while in some cases, in upwards of 90% of employers receive candidates, the majority of 90% of their candidates through job boards and their career website or their company's website, 30% of their hires on average are through networking and personal referrals. And if you just Google statistics for personal referrals versus cold applications, it's really compelling. It's very necessary. But what exactly is networking? I think it tends to be this sort of ambiguous aspect to the job search that we know will help us, are not quite sure how to do it, and in many cases avoid it. In fact, over half of, in one particular survey, over half of the professionals surveyed mentioned that in spite of understanding how valuable networking and maintaining contacts is for their career exploration and growth, half of them don't do it simply because they don't feel that they have time. Now, you might find yourself in that bucket of people feeling like you don't have time. But I think once you learn a little bit more about what it is and what it looks like and how you can do it, you'll recognize you want to be in that half that does do it. Instead of networking, I'm going to reframe it and call it connecting for your career search. Just a few of the benefits. You can learn through conversations about occupations and industries of interest, identify organizations that may be a fit, fill in gaps on skills and experiences that are necessary. So you know you want to do something, you don't quite know what you need to do it. And then finally, put yourself on the radar, not just of those individuals, but potentially the contacts from those individuals and the organizations in which they work. So connecting, not networking as much as if that's a little bit of a scarier term. In order to start, you have to create a list of people that you want to connect with. This can come from many resources. We give students a goal. Start with 20 to 50 organizations and contacts. So if it's 20 organizations rather, and 50 contacts, that's great. You might say, you know what, Katie, I have 2 people that I know right now. All right, let's be a little bit creative. I want you to think a little bit more broadly and think about who may be a contact for you. So here's the low-hanging fruit: close friends, family members, connections from high school. I include professors in there because you can have access to them very easily, and maybe a little bit more closer to you than some of these other connections. And current and former job supervisors, even if you worked in a shift job and you're not necessarily thinking that that's what you want to do long-term, those are contacts who have not only seen your work ethic, but might also be more likely to help you. There are multiple Yale connections. There's peers that are on campus. I'm going to show you how to access all of these, by the way. Professors, again, alumni, World Fellows is something that I want to be sure to mention, and I'll show you how to identify those. And then finally, Yale employers. Staying on top of industry news, again, may seem like something you don't have time for, but it absolutely is essential if you really want to get the inside scoop, not only in terms of who does what, but also talking points for conversations and ultimately interviews down the line. So that will help to inform not only what the organization or the industry is doing, but who within the industry may be a contact for you. Job postings and professional associations and volunteer opportunities too. And my favorite resource is the to be names, the people that you haven't yet met, that you are going to gain through the research that you do, the conversations and the explorations that you take on. This will hopefully grow to be the biggest category as you begin to think about how you can connect with individuals and ultimately identify additional resources and individuals for you to talk to. I know, again, it can be a little daunting. So I am going to spend a few minutes on this. You want to look at the resources available to you from a multi-pronged approach. So starting with Yale, who is on campus? Who are you closely associated with, and what Yale OCCS resources can we help with, particularly through our office? So through Careerlink, you have access to peer networking and class list, employer directory, the outcomes data, where students go, OCS events, and career shift, which all of these, again, I'm mentioning quickly, but I'm going to show you. The Yale University as a whole, again, I mentioned professors. I do not want you to forget about them in establishing relationships with them now. The the Alumni Association has a database called Cross Campus, which I'll show you, that can help you identify contacts. There's student clubs, LinkedIn, my favorite resource of all time, and then finally local alumni clubs that many students, I think, aren't aware exist and can be a great resource for you. And finally, external resources that can help identify individuals for you, not just job postings, but also individual things. I want to mention industry-specific resources. I just put in GuideStar there. That is the type of information you'll glean as you continue to research and explore. So what resources for the particular functions or industries of interest will ultimately yield more direct contacts for you. You want to use all of these, and organization is key. We always advise students, it seems easy when you start, but once you start to develop some traction, you're going to need a system of organization, one that works for you. We have examples in our office, but I think even speaking with someone at Yale who has undergone a job search, many of whom are willing to share their own spreadsheets and just in terms of how they organize information. But it really is key if you're going to stay on top of it and meet deadlines and motivate yourself. Many of the resources I mentioned through OCS are available through Careerlink. Again, you've likely been on this website, but I want to be sure to show you some of the maybe more hidden aspects of this, just to be sure that you don't miss all this good information. So in the Careerlink, we've got the resources, and particularly the career library. I have a couple of shortcuts here, but you can create your own. One of the most immediate resources we would love for you to take advantage of, if you haven't already, are the summer experiences and class list. This is an Excel spreadsheet. You've likely been prompted to fill in the information for yourself of where students worked. There is the 2021 here as well, but I wanted to get a screenshot that also showed the class list. And so this is a list of Yale alumni in their first destination, basically where they went when they graduated. Understanding this information is A, static, and B, as good as the information that our current students and alumni share, it is absolutely a resource for you and a data point in your job search that we want to be sure you're aware of. Sticking with Careerlink, there's the employer database. I think this has many benefits. First of all, you can see who has recruited on campus or posted jobs in the past. You can follow them to see if they have current job postings. And even if an employer doesn't have a current job posting, it still demonstrates that they have recruited Yale students in the past and absolutely are likely to do that in the future. There are contacts through there as well. So this informs job postings potential, organizations who do what you might want to do, and then finally some contacts to reach out to and add to that list. CareerShift is one of our favorite resources in the office. Similar to LinkedIn or Careerlink, it has multiple benefits to it. At its core, it's a job postings aggregator. So it pulls jobs, not just from organizational websites, but also from job boards. What I find really fascinating is that in addition to job postings, it sort of does a lot of the work for you. You can also use this for contacts. So I just did a couple of quick searches here. You can actually drill down and filter by school. So if you look for contacts at a particular organization, I happen to have done an NBC Universal search with a student, and so this one just had come up. But if you search by Yale, it will pull any employees whose company records are listed, it will and have that connection to Yale. So a great way to further drill down on connections and contacts for you through CareerShift. Again, it's not just through job postings. Here is the job postings. What I love about this is you can search by multiple things. There are many filters. You can search by experience level, internship, full-time opportunities. You can search by location. There are many ways to do it. And again, if you're looking for a specific company and you don't see them listed, you can still look at contacts within that. It doesn't necessarily mean that they don't have active information that you can glean from it. Finally, just one of the many elements of CareerShift is something like the H-1B visa sponsorship. So I think there are kind of hidden benefits to some of this. Now, note, I pulled up H-1B because sometimes that's an aspect of the job search that students with visa requirements have a hard time identifying. So I wanted to be sure to point that out. That's CareerShift. Let's move over to the Yale Alumni Association. Not surprising, they have a lot of resources and benefits, but I want to point out a few that might be more relevant to you as you are exploring careers and jobs. This is the page for the Yale alumni groups. It is basically any Yale alumni club or group is listed on this page. So you can search by a few things. You can look for a community, like first generation Yale alumni. You can look for geographic or location specific alumni groups. So if you're looking at jobs in a particular region or city, absolutely use the Yale alumni groups. If you're just looking for connections, use the categories that are available to you and the communities and affinity groups that you might be interested in. Yale Alumni Association runs a database called Cross Campus. It is absolutely something that you should incorporate into your job search and your contact search. If you're not familiar with it, there are resources and tutorials available to you, but I just wanted to show you a couple things from this. Again, this is Cross Campus. I think I specified maybe graphic designer, and this is who came up. So you see all this information that's out there. There's more filters as well. You can search again by the year of graduation. You can search by major. You can search by location. It's all available to you. But just this one search, if you look, we got a creative director in New York, an audiovisual designer in Los Angeles, an independent financial, I think, consultant in Malibu. So this is a great way. These individuals have stated that they're willing to speak with Yale students. So get connected to that. There is a program on campus, the Yale World Fellows. Every year in the fall, these individuals come from all over the world to spend, I think, 4 months here and take classes. There is a great database that is, if you just look on our website or look on the Yale website for the Yale World Fellows, that will, again, similar to Cross Campus, just augments your contacts list. The opportunities to identify contacts is really endless, but we want to be sure that you see these because I think they're right there on campus. In some cases, these individuals may even be engaged in their fall program this year. And I just focused on a few more ways that you could drill down on the data that comes back to you. I think everybody knows about LinkedIn. I'm not sure everyone knows that A, it's full potential, it's full value, and B, it's really not as daunting of a resource as it may seem initially. So we're going to take just a minute to talk about that. We want to be sure that when you create your profile, and I'll talk to you about that in a moment, you do join the LinkedIn groups, and particularly this is the Yale University group. There are multiple groups associated with Yale, but this is a way to connect to individuals with that particular connection that you have. So we want to be sure, yes, there are jobs, but we'll get to that in a little bit. I just did a quick search for a student. We were looking at Jane Street as an organization, and 14,000 people came back. So just as a testament to the need to connect, particularly to drill down on connections, once I searched by Yale, again, it was 14,000. I actually then came back to just 81. So it really, really made that a lot better, a lot more manageable for me. And this is just a quick snapshot of who came back to me, but this shows us the level of connection that we have, third and second, in some cases first. For me, Jason Douglas is a second connection. So what I might do if I was interested in connecting with Daniel is first reach out to Jason, see if he'd be willing to make a connection for me. Okay. I think this resource is phenomenal. I think what often prevents students from wanting to utilize LinkedIn is that they're not comfortable with their profile. And so if you, as a student, have created a profile, you feel like it's pretty bare bones, this checklist, it's through the LinkedIn University's page, just gives you a really quick and easy way to build out and to expand your profile. So I wanted to be sure to see that. Again, it's through LinkedIn Universities, and it's not as hard as you think. It's a lot easier than you think. Okay, I just realized that we have some questions. Oh, somebody did ask if these slides will be shared after the presentation. Yes, I do believe we'll share the slides on our website. Also, this video will be shared through our YouTube slide as well. Someone also asked about the 2022 summer opportunities list, the sales spreadsheet, and other people's experiences. The 2022 summer experiences, 2021 is available. It's been recently updated. 2022, I don't know if I'm understanding it correctly, but we will have that obviously after the summer. Okay, you've got all these contacts. We showed you many ways to connect with individuals through LinkedIn, through Career, cross campus, and various things through your Careerlink. And now what? I think the idea that people have is, okay, great, hurry up, but now what do I do with all this information? And the next step is to connect. Again, a little bit of hesitation for some around this, because what you think you want is a job. And obviously I know everybody at some point will want that, but what you actually need is information. So I would like for you to shift the focus from thinking that you have to get a job and you've got to reach out to contacts for jobs and I'm going to ask for a job. What you actually need at this point is information. That comes in the form of the informational interview. This is a term you may or may not have heard about, and we could spend an entire hour just talking about networking in the informational interview, but I'm going to go through it just so it demystifies it a little bit, as I mentioned, but also gives you some resources to help take that next step from identifying contacts to actually reaching out and connecting with them. The informational interview. I just went too quickly through that. I think some people hear the word interview and it makes them a little bit nervous. What I would like for you to reframe that is to look at it as a conversation, which it's not an interview. Yes, you'll be gaining information and ultimately it may lead to an interview, but it's a conversation with someone doing a job or in a capacity that you are interested in learning more about. We have conversations every day, and I think what it allows us to, if we look at it with this perspective, it allows us to go into that exchange with an open mind and a little bit less trepidation. It's a way to connect with individuals. Yes, again, it may ultimately lead to further connections and an opportunity, but you want to gain information. So I would like you to reframe that. If it's a little unclear to you, and I'm sure for many of you it might be, what you would do in order to essentially attain an informational interview is get the contact information that you have and create an outreach. can email to them, or whichever way that you, if it's through LinkedIn, if it's through cross campus, this is your communication. So this is how it could look. Dear Andrew, Jonathan Law gave me your name as someone who may be willing to speak with me about your experiences in higher education. Okay, so Andrew, this is how I got your contact information. This is who I am. I'm a first-year student at Yale, interested in counseling and student affairs. I'd love to hear more about your work at X and possibly gather any advice you have for someone considering this career path. So this is who I am. And then finally, the ask, what you're asking for. Again, it's not a job, it's information, time to talk. Please let me know if you'd have 20 minutes or so over the next week or two to meet via Zoom. I'm particularly interested in how you transition from background in nonprofit to this field. I appreciate any time you have to meet and look forward to hearing from you. So again, this is not a request for a job. You're not asking them to recommend you just yet, although that may come later. You're simply asking for a connection and for information and time to talk. By the way, you may or may not hear back from this person, regardless if it's your roommate's best friend's aunt or sister or mother. It may not lead to a response from them right away. I always like to say that in networking and in the job search, this is absolutely on your end, more golf than tennis. In other words, you need to move the ball forward and create the connections and continue to follow up. This is where organization is essential too. There is more information on our website for the informational interview. It has, we have things like the questions that you might be able to ask, ways to connect with people, sample outreach, similar to this. So take advantage of that and make the ask. We're going to shift gears for a little bit here, and I'm going to turn it over to Robin, who will discuss a little bit more about funding and the options and resources that are available to you. Okay, so I'm turning it over to Robin.
Thanks, Katie. So now that Katie has shown us all these amazing resources and strategies about how to get the internship or to get your job, I'm going to talk about the fun part, the money, right? Because there is that important part of, obviously students want to get paid, and some of these opportunities will be unpaid. If you can go to the next slide, please. Great. So first, let me just take a step back and just an overview of fellowships, right? So when we think of fellowships, we typically would think of specific awards. A lot of times they are going to be, in the case of Yale fellowships, they're going to be donated by alumni. These will support specific activities such as research. It could be an unpaid internship. It could be studying in another country. A lot of the fellowships that are available at Yale are for the summer. However, there are some also for seniors for postgraduate opportunities. So we'll touch on that as well. And the eligibility for these opportunities, these fellowship opportunities to apply, they do vary. So there might be, for example, a fellowship that is specifically for students who are international students, or there might be a fellowship that is specifically for students from a specific residential college. So it definitely takes time to look through the fellowships and decide which ones are worth applying for. Funds can be limited for these. They always are limited. So it's a competitive process where one needs to apply. The best place to go to search for fellowships is going to be the Yale Students Grants Database. So as we call it, the SGDB, or the Yale Students Grants Database, is managed by the Yale Office of Fellowships. So if you go to the Yale Office of Fellowships, you can see right there, you'll see the link for the Students Grants Database, and you can just log in with your net ID. And that's going to have a number of ways that you can filter, that you can look for fellowship opportunities that you'll be eligible for and that meet your needs. The typical deadline for a lot of the summer fellowships, not all of them, but it is early as February. So I'm going to talk in the next slide about best practices, but just so you know, this is something that if you're interested in fellowships, it is helpful to start thinking sooner rather than later. There's a Yale Summer Common Application that's in the Yale Students Grants Database that allows one to, very similar to when you were applying to the university, right? A common application that actually will take your application and apply to, it'll point to a number of different unique fellowships that fit your eligibility. So that's a nice part of the Students Grants database. There's also other options in terms of external awards. So if you go to funding.yale.edu, you can see other external fellowships and awards. And this is also, the slide just is also a good reminder that it's really helpful to talk to professors and others who have gone through the fellowship process. You'll be in touch with professors about letters of recommendation. You can meet with advisors from the Yale Office of Fellowships about your application. So we really try to support this in a variety of ways. And if we can go to the next slide, I'm going to touch a little bit on best practices. So the biggest thing that I want to share here, and the biggest takeaway, that if you learn one thing about the funding piece, is if you're thinking about applying for fellowships, knowing that it's a February deadline, it's important to note that you do not have to actually have the position secured by then. And that is a really important point that I think a lot of students might not know about, and so they do not apply for fellowships. It's very difficult to have these type of opportunities that one would be applying to get funding for, to have those secured by February. So that is not expected. Rather, when you go into the application, you can talk about different things that you're planning on proposing or planning on doing. It's helpful if you have one concrete idea, perhaps two, but really sticking to one is fine, and defining that. But again, it does not have to be secured. And if that ends up not working out, that's something where if you were awarded the fellowship, then you could go back and let them know that perhaps the proposed plan didn't work, but this other one came through, like your plan B, and then that would be fine as well. You just have to work with the Office of Fellowships about that. So that's a really important point. When you go into the Students Grants database, you can use the filters to really, as I mentioned before, look at what makes sense for you. So there's obviously looking at the class level, what's eligible for a first year might not be eligible for a junior. There's also categories like public service or research or language study. So you have to play around with this, and again, that takes time. Another piece of this, another component which takes time, and so it's important to start thinking about it earlier, is that most of them do require a letter of recommendations. So you might need to reach out to a professor or perhaps a previous supervisor and get a letter of recommendation to submit your application. So those are really the main best practices that I wanted to touch on for fellowships. And now if we go on to the next slide, we're going to talk about the Summer Experience Award. So the Summer Experience Award is different in the sense that while the fellowships are merit-based, so those are competitive awards that have a very specific number that they can award, the SEA is not that way. The Summer Experience Award is open for all students who are on financial aid to apply. And it's important to note that it's not a merit-based award the way the fellowships are. So who can apply for the Summer Experience Award? The Summer Experience Award is open for all first years, sophomores, and juniors who are on financial aid. Now, you can be on 1% financial aid and you can be on 100% financial aid. It doesn't matter, as long as you're on some Yale financial aid. Think of this as part of your financial aid package. And what it is you are applying for getting funding for a secured, approved, unpaid, or underfunded summer experience. So that could be an internship, it could be a research project, it could be research with a university, it could be an apprenticeship, like an arts apprenticeship. And these opportunities could be either in the United States or they could be abroad. So here are the areas that they can be in. It could be with a nonprofit. It has to be a 501c3 registered nonprofit, or it could be with an NGO. It could be with a government entity, so any of the government agencies. It can also be an arts apprenticeship, as well as a science lab or other research opportunity. So those are the areas that one can get it in. And then if you can just hit the next couple of slides, the next couple of bullets, that'd be great. Thank you. So what else is required of this opportunity? So it has to be at least 8 weeks in length. Now, some students will apply and they'll be working for 10 weeks, et cetera, more, but it's at least 8. And this stipend does not change if you're working for a longer amount of time. And it has to be full time. It has to be 30 hours or more per week. If one is working in the United States, then it is a $4,000 stipend. And if you are working internationally, then it's a $6,000 stipend. Okay, so that's a big difference. Unique, those are the 2 stipends there. The other piece to keep in mind is that for the summer 2022, we will once again, we did this last year for the first time, but we will once again allow for remote opportunities. So if a student is looking to work remotely, they can get the SEA, but it will be a flat $4,000. And what I mean by that is, even if you are, let's say you're in the United States, but you're working internationally for, an organization in Rome, you would still be getting $4,000 if it was remote. Okay, so if you're not actually traveling internationally, then the $6,000 does not apply. Now, this is a one-time award, which means you can get it for one summer out of your first year, sophomore, or junior summer. So that's another important point. The deadline is May 1st. And the reason that it is so late is that you are actually securing the position. So that's really the difference, is with those other fellowships, you are proposing that you're going to do something. With the SEA, we want you to come to us once you've found something, because that's actually part of the application process. It's a very straightforward form, 1 page, just a few things to fill out, but you're actually going to have your supervisor sign off saying that they would hire you if you get this funding. Okay, so that's the reason it's so late, is that we are allowing time for students to secure the position. They can check to make sure it's eligible, that it's in one of these categories. You can go ahead and look at the application. The application actually opens next week. It opens on November 1st. So at that point, you'll be able to go into Yale Careerlink and go to it'll be right on the right-hand side of your homepage. You can just hit SEA application and go in and you can take a look at it. It is not a very difficult application. It's really more just about where the opportunity is going to be and does it meet these requirements. And then your supervisor will just fill out a form that explains like what the job is that you'll be doing. And then the other just point I wanted to mention, I think there's another bullet here, Katie, if there's, yep, and then one more after that. So that's the link right there, Summer Experience Award. And then I did just also want to mention that if you are an international student, you are definitely eligible to do the SEA, but you should contact OISS regarding the work authorization piece. So that's definitely required. And if anybody has questions on the Summer Experience Award, there's actually a great information on here. There's FAQs for you, so you can kind of look into it further. And OCS does manage that, so you can also contact OCS. Okay, next slide. So in addition to the fellowships, we also have a number of funded internships. Many of these, as you can see, are in Yale Careerlink, and Office of Career Strategy manages these. So I'm just going to lightly touch on each of these. I will also say, and I can send this through the chat afterwards, but if you go to ocs.yale.edu and you go to undergraduates, on the undergraduates page, you'll see something called Select Internship Programs, and that will list all of these top ones that have a bullet in great detail. So they all have specific pages where you can go in and kind of get very specific information. But just on a high level, Paul Block Journalism Internship, that's a funded internship of $4,000. It is currently open. It actually has 2 openings. So it opens in the fall, and then it opens again in the spring. So right now, the positions that are open are the Toledo Blade and the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. And like I said, in the early spring, it'll reopen, and there will be other newspapers that one can apply for. If you go into Yale Careerlink and you just search in keywords, and you just put in quotes, Paul Block, you will see the opportunities. The Buckley Media and Public Policy internships, those are up to 5 spots, and they're for funded media and public policy related positions. Some of the past employers have been the Manhattan Institute and Forbes, and that's a $4,000 stipend. Those positions typically open in December. And if you just go to the keyword search in Yale Careerlink and put in quotes Buckley, you will see those opportunities when they open up. A lot of these are not opening up till around December. So it's great that you're coming to this webinar now, so you can kind of look more into these particular opportunities and see which ones might be a good match for you. The I'm going to just skip around. I'm going to go to Los Angeles Arts Internship. So that's another funded internship. For that one, it's going to be arts administration opportunities in the Los Angeles area. It's $5,500 for a student, and typically there's 3 to 5 spots available for that one. Past employers were American Contemporary Ballet, the LA Opera, and the LA County Museum of Art. So again, if you're in Yale Careerlink, just go in quotes and search for Los Angeles Arts, and you'll see those opportunities. And those will again be more December, January that they pop up. Now, the Yale Alumni Community Service internships, those are funded opportunities in Yale Careerlink at various nonprofits throughout the United States. The Yale clubs, as Katie mentioned before, she was showing the Yale Alumni Association site and how there's Yale clubs throughout the United States as well as internationally. Well, the US clubs, some of them have raised funds in their particular city for opportunities. So what they've done is they've selected specific nonprofits that they wanted to support, and essentially allowing that a nonprofit to have a Yaley, and the nonprofit doesn't have to pay because the club is covering the costs. Now, in terms of the stipend, they range per city. So some might be in the $3,000 range, others might be up to the $6,000 range. So you really have to go in and look at the specific position. The easiest way to do that is in Yale Careerlink. If you just do a quote, in quotes, YACSF, those will come up. Again, those will be starting to post in around December, and then they will continue throughout the spring. Then we've got the Yawkey Community Service. That one is actually in the Students Grants database, which is the fellowships database I mentioned before. It will open in around December. And the Yawkey Community Service Fellowship is focused on nonprofits in the New England area, and students can propose where they would like to work. It's a stipend of $5,000. So that one, again, you can propose an organization that you're going to work for. It doesn't have to be confirmed because the deadline is going to be in around early March. So we understand that sometimes things aren't confirmed by then, but you can propose where you would like to work. We have the Women in Government Fellowship. That is open to all Yale College students, except for seniors. And again, that's in the Students Grants database as well. That's open, and you can apply to work for various areas of government. They really like to specialize in policy. So there's a lot of programming around women in government. You can go to our website, ocs.yale.edu, to see more information on that. We have a Women in Government ambassador who's been putting programs on. They help with really like application proposals, kind of shaping what you're thinking you want to do for the summer. It's a great opportunity. It's about $5,000, and it also includes going to the campaign school for 1 week. And then we have Yale in Hollywood. Yale in Hollywood is an alumni group, and they're involved in the entertainment industry. So they have programming and mentorship, and they have specific opportunities. Those are also in Yale Careerlink, and they will be posted a little bit later because the entertainment world doesn't post as early. So I would check back in more like January, February, and those will be on a rolling basis. In addition to the OCS funded internships I just spoke about, we also have other additional Yale internships and fellowships around campus. There's the President's Public Service Fellowship, Dwight Hall Yana Fellowship, and some other ones that you might want to check out. Okay, next slide. So for our seniors who are on the call, I do want to make sure that you're aware of this resource on OCS. This is the OCS Gap Year and Short-Term Opportunities page. And on this page, I just wanted to highlight that what we've done is gone ahead and created these different category pages on various postgraduate fellowships that are available to apply for. Now, these are not Yale fellowships. These are external fellowships. So for example, if you go to the education fellowships page, you'll see we have Teach for America, Blue Engine fellowships, right? External fellowships, but it helps, I think, for seniors to just kind of be able to shape like what are the opportunities that are funded that are out there. So I would encourage you to check this out. And then also for seniors, we have the travel reimbursement program. Just wanted to give a quick plug for this. So travel reimbursement program is only for seniors. It can help if you have an interview or an audition for any jobs in the nonprofit, government, and the arts, and you have travel expenses for that interview. We realize with the pandemic that there is a lot less of those travel expenses. So this has also been opened up for a category called other career-related engagements. And so some of the things that this could cover, and these are only just a couple examples, but seniors are welcome to apply for other funding as well. I mean, for other purposes, but things like registration fees for professional conferences, membership fees for a professional association, or a subscription to a particular industry job board. And the senior can get reimbursed for up to $200. If you go on ocs.yale.edu and just put travel reimbursement in the search, the page will come up that kind of goes through the entire process. Essentially, you have to submit in a survey form in Yale Careerlink what you spent money on. Okay, so if you have any questions on that, I'm happy to answer it at the end. And I believe that's the end of my part. So, oh, I'm sorry. I also have additional summer programs. So we did want to mention as a reminder that there are other opportunities, right, for the summer. We've got Yale Summer Session, who has courses you can take. There's Summer Study Abroad, which they'll be announcing things for the summer, I want to say in December. And then also there's fellowships. I mentioned the Yale Office of Fellowships before. So within the Yale Office of Fellowships, and if you look at the Students Grants database, you'll see there's also ways to propose to get funding for things like independent research that you might want to do. And I will now turn things back over to Katie.
Thank you. Let me unmute myself. I think between the resources that Robin shared for funding and avenues to explore how you might be able to best support yourself during the summer and beyond, as well as the resources that have hopefully given you just a taste of how you can connect with individuals, identify jobs, learn more about industries and organizations. It's hopefully opened your eyes to it, but also might allow you to feel a little bit overwhelmed. So just to spend a brief minute talking about how you could develop an action plan. All of this is a summary, really, of what we've just shared. So determine your goals for the summer or postgraduate. Connect to OCS through our newsletter. So again, customize your preferences, take the 2 minutes to do that so that that resource is most valuable to you, as valuable to you as it can be. Create a target list, continue to update a target list, and also stay organized with that. Ultimately, with that information, you'll reach out and connect with contacts and identify opportunities through Careerlink and the other resources that you might want to apply to. We have resources for resume and cover letter through our website, but also in person. So I'll briefly share that at the end, which is coming up in just a minute. Continue to apply to opportunities, but don't stop networking. Continue applying until you've secured a position or an opportunity or made your plans for the summer, but continue networking throughout the summer, throughout the rest of the year, and meet with us along the way for any and all questions. I think we shared a lot of resources, but some of it was a little quick. So this is just a brief snapshot. There are various aspects to your job search and career exploration. There's the career and industry aspect of it, learning more about what's out there, who does it from a company perspective and an organizational perspective, individuals at those organizations, and then ultimately jobs and how you uncover the hidden job market as well as the posted job opportunities that an organization might have. So what we wanted to try and do is just quickly give you a snapshot of just some of the resources that we mentioned from Careerlink, whose really purposes is all of the above. Those where you see a little dot in the middle, that's the main goal of that resource. Career Shift, while it initially started as a jobs aggregator, it also helps you identify companies who in the industry or the organizations that you're looking for and contacts within those companies. And then ultimately it's shaded a little bit lighter, but Career Shift does inform your understanding and build out your understanding of careers and industries. We did the same for the remaining resources here. So again, cross campus through the Yale Alumni Association, its main purpose might be to identify contacts, but that also helps you fill out your understanding of what that person's doing, their role in the organization that they work for, and concurrently give you the names of companies doing the jobs that you're interested in. All of these are going to be valuable in some aspect of your job search. And we want to be sure that you tap into all of these. Some of them are right outside your door, from contacts on campus and connections that you can utilize as a Yale student and with recent alum, but also remembering that there are resources that will really, really help you hone in on exactly what you can be doing and what you want to do and the skills you're going to need to do it, all of which creates the best and most proactive and productive job search. Just a quick reminder about what we offer. So advising appointments and quick questions are available. You do need to make those, both the quick questions and advising appointments, 24 hours in advance. Resume assistance, we are still offering this where you submit your resume and get it back. I think it's within 5 days. It's reviewed by one of the assistants in our office who focuses on that. And here is our email address and website. I want to ask, if possible, to be sure to connect to our social media sites so that you're in real time with the information that we share. And that is it for our recorded portion of the job and internship search. I think what we can do now, if there are questions, I notice there's something in the chat, we can stop the recording and then answer